And welcome to the final overtime on the ice. A sad day. I know we're all kind of feeling a little bit bummed that we weren't talking, the next round of playoffs between the Penguins and the Bruins. Instead, another early exit for the Pens. And guys, there's going to be a lot of questions when it comes to changes that are going to occur for this team in the offseason. How big are the changes going to be? Dan, we'll start with you.
Oh, thanks for that question.
I know, a little softball, right?
Phil was here too, right? How big are the changes going to be? I think the operative term there is big, meaning the team is going to get more size. Mario didn't ask for Brian Bourque by name by accident. He didn't say, "What about Bourque?" to quote exactly what Mario said in the phone conversation with David Morehouse. Mario sees this. Everyone sees it. They look around the league and you see that teams are, sure, they're still focused on skill, speed, puck possession, but along the way they're finding bigger people to do that. And I think that's where you're going to see the Penguins start to head. It doesn't have to be immediate. It doesn't have to be drastic. And it doesn't mean you find yourself some fourth line enforcer. I do think you're going to see somebody significant moved, Jenna. It might be someone like a Jake Gensel or a Brian Rust, and I hate even saying something like that. But you have to give in order to get, and you also have to give in terms of salary cap hit in order to get. And there are going to be other teams out there that are looking for someone who can score, and they don't care how big or small someone is. So you're going to have to find the right match, and good luck to Ron Hextall on this.
Bourque, what moves do you see them making? What are some of the initial ones kind of from early on you see potentially happening here with this team?
Yeah, Jenna, early on here, I get people are emotional and they want to blow it up and they want change right away. I get that. But I don't think there's going to be huge changes. But yeah, I definitely think there's going to be some big bodies brought in. I think that Brian Bourque and Ron Hextall had to be sitting up there watching Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, taken advantage of physically, and them having to fight their own battles.
Yes.
And this has been going on long before those two got here. And we've had some guys here before, but they're not here now. And with these guys in their mid-30s and taking this physical abuse, I think that will be the biggest change we'll see. Other than that, I think you'll see some more depth guys brought in, but nothing major. And again, with it being a flat cap this year, you don't have a lot of money you can just throw around here, so I don't expect huge changes. Oh. But one thing, Dan, real quick, one thing, if you do decide to make a major change, I think, you've heard this before, some of the best trades ever made are the ones that are not made. So I think because you've got a guy like Brian Bourque and Ron Hextall here, veteran guys, I think they're going to take their sweet time here to really evaluate. Let the dust settle. Let the emotions calm down before you evaluate this team.
And if you want to talk about a big change, one area was kind of exposed there in the playoffs there, and you could go and try to reap the rewards of what looks like a very rich, unrestricted free agency pool of goaltenders out there. Or you know what? Think really, really, really big. And you know who I'm going to bring up here from Anaheim, Phil, because I'd bring that kid back in a heartbeat. John Gibson, of course. Yeah, sure. Not just because he's local, but because he's got the world in front of him. And by the way, you know who loved him more than anybody else out there? Brian Bourque.
It's a very interesting point. That's one I've kind of heard swirling around a lot lately too. But we saw, some downfall from Tristan Jarry. No denying, he said after his exit interviews the other day, he needs to be better. Is he that number one guy next year? Dan, I know you talked about, going out and get someone. Do you stick with Jarry? He's probably still going to be on this team. Or do you go get somebody that, so you say, hey, you're competing with this guy for that number one job, and who's he competing against?
Yeah, that's the key word there, Jenna, is competing. You can't have him come into a training camp anointed as number one. You just can't do that. Not after the playoff that just happened. Whether it's fair or not, whether the sample size is too small or not, that's life. You are judged by playoff performance in the National Hockey League. And he did not come through. He let his teammates down in a big way here. No matter how nice they are about it, he still did that. You have to have a competition. And I'm not talking about Casey DeSmith. I'm not being mean here about Casey either. I think you have to enter this season with another goaltender. And even that goaltender doesn't need to be the default number one, but that goaltender comes in with some kind of pedigree. I mentioned some of these names already, and you say, listen, you understand Tristan Jarry could beat you out here. Okay, if he shows that he's this or that or whatever, that's the kind of dynamic that I want to see. So we're probably talking about someone older.
Bourque, potentially, who is that guy off the top of your head?
I'll throw 3 names out there. Peter Mrazek is a guy that I absolutely love. He's in Carolina.
Yeah.
And Alex Nedeljkovic has kind of taken the #1 job there.
Yes, he did.
So, and Mrazek's going to be a UFA. You got Antti Ranta out in Arizona. And you have the kid up in Buffalo, Linus Ullmark, who is a really good goaltender on a really bad team. So I don't want Tristan Jarry to be gone. Listen, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater because he had 6 bad games in the playoffs. But I do think he's got to be mentally stronger. And this will be a big offseason for him. But if you can bring in another guy like that at a reasonable number, and that's the big question right there, a reasonable number. Those guys, maybe a 1A, 1B, we split them right down the middle. 41 games each, and the best one after that will get the nod in the playoffs.
Lots of questions ahead. Definitely going to be a very interesting offseason. Well, thank you both so much for all that you did with us this season. We really enjoyed this, and thank you all for tuning in on Overtime on the Ice.